1. A quarter. That meant something. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this. It's Saturday morning, 1965, and the sun hasn't quite lifted over the rooftops yet. The neighborhood is quiet, the kind of quiet that only existed in those years, before leaf blowers, before buzzing traffic, before the world got loud. A Canadian father pats his coat pockets, finds a single quarter, and presses it into his 7-year-old son's hand. "Go run to the corner store," he says with a smile that comes from knowing that one coin was enough. The boy pulls on his boots, steps out into the crisp morning, and heads down a gravel sidewalk. No fear, no rushing. Just a kid with 25 cents and a world of possibility. He walks out of the store minutes later with a bottle of pop, a bag of chips, and still enough left over for 8 cents worth of penny candy. Exactly 24 jujubes carefully scooped from glass jars behind the counter. A quarter today can't buy a stick of gum, but in 1965, it could buy a morning full of joy. And that's where our journey starts, because to understand life in 1965 Canada, you have to understand what things cost, yes, but also what they felt like. 2. When grocery stores smelled like bread, not anxiety. Grocery shopping in 1965 wasn't an act of financial courage, it was simply part of life. Families walked into stores knowing the bill wouldn't knock the wind out of them. A loaf of white bread, 12 cents. A dozen eggs, 50 cents. A pound of butter, 60 cents. Ground beef, 70 cents a pound. Chicken, 40 cents a pound. These numbers aren't nostalgia talking, they're real. A full week of groceries for a family of 4 came to about $20 total. And that wasn't bargain hunting. That was the normal price. One viewer remembered something that says more about that era than any statistic ever could. His father dropped a $20 bill in the grocery store parking lot in 1961. He picked it up, and that single bill bought a full week of groceries, a full tank of gas. Imagine that today. A single $20 bill taking care of both your family and your car. It sounds fictional because the Canada we live in now feels so different. 3. The milkman, the glass bottles, and the quiet ritual of mornings before cartons, before plastic, before the word waste meant landfills full of packaging. There was the milkman. A familiar figure moving quietly along Canadian streets before the sun came up. A gallon of milk delivered to your door cost about 25 cents, and that included the bottle itself. You drank it, washed it, left it outside, and the milkman swapped it for a fresh one the next morning. It wasn't just delivery. It was ritual, the soft clink of glass, the footprints in the snow, the fresh bottle waiting on the step before you'd even opened your eyes. Kids today don't know that feeling, that small moment that told you the world was running just fine. For hamburgers, diners, and when coffee was just coffee. If you wanted to eat out, you didn't need to check your bank balance first. A good-sized hamburger at a roadside joint cost 35 cents. Add fries for 15 cents and you had a full meal for 40 cents total. Coffee? Not $5, not $7. Not something served in cardboard with complicated names. Just a simple cup for a dime. 10 cents bought you coffee, conversation, and a seat at the counter where strangers chatted about hockey, weather, or nothing at all. It was the kind of everyday social life that has quietly disappeared. 5. Penny candy. The currency of childhood kids in 1965 weren't scrolling phones. They were scanning sidewalks for empty pop bottles. A small bottle was worth 2 cents. A big one, 5 cents. A few bottles meant candy, real candy, in paper bags that crinkled as you walked home. Bars like Bar 6 Malted Milk, Marathon, Eat More, Wig-Wag, 5-Star, 10 chocolate bars, $1 total. Imagine sending a kid into a store today with a single dollar and expecting them to come out with anything except disappointment. Penny candy wasn't just food, it was freedom, the smallest taste of independence. 6. Houses you could actually afford. And now we reach the part of the story that hits Canadians hardest today: housing. A brand new 3-bedroom Canadian home in 1965, real brick, real wood, built to last, cost between $15,000 and $20,000. One viewer said their parents bought a home in the mid-60s for $16,000. Today, that exact same home sells for $1.6 million, 100 times more expensive. Same walls, same street, same square footage. Another viewer shared that his father made $12,000 a year in 1970. His mother didn't work. And do you know what? They lived comfortably, not extravagantly, just comfortably. The mortgage, $125 a month, property taxes included. Gas bill, $17 a month. It wasn't paradise, but it was balanced. A single income could support a family, a house, a car, food, vacations, and savings, all without drowning in debt. Today, many families with 2 incomes struggle to do the same. 7. Renting without fear. Even if you didn't want to buy a house, life didn't punish you for renting. In 1974, a 2-bedroom apartment cost around $60 a month. One man recalled making $69 a week, paying rent, supporting a spouse and child, owning a car, and still making it work. Not by being wealthy, just by living in a system that made sense. 8. Cars, gas, and a tank you could fill for $5. In 1965, a brand new car cost between $3,000 and $4,000. A used car could be had for $500 to $1,000. But the real jaw-dropper is fuel. A gallon of gas cost 33 to 35 cents. You could fill your tank for under $5? And gas stations weren't self-serve concrete islands. They were small communities. The attendant would pump your gas, wash your windshield, check your oil, check your tire pressure, offer you a free road map, all included, all part of the service, no extra fees, no upcharges, no screens asking if you wanted a car wash, just dignity and customer care. 9. A dollar earned was a dollar that mattered. The average Canadian income in 1965 was $6,500 to $7,000 a year. Minimum wage hovered around 95 cents an hour. But wages matched prices. A house cost 3 times an annual salary, not 20 times. A worker making $8 an hour in 1977 could afford a 1-bedroom apartment, a new car, groceries, bills, leisure activities. He even said he had money left over. Why? Because everything, wages, housing, food, transportation, existed in harmony. One income wasn't a dream. It was the norm. 10. Money that was made of silver, not just numbers. People forget this part, but it matters. Canadian coins minted from 1920 to 1967 contained 80% real silver. In 1965, you could walk into a bank with a paper dollar and walk out with an actual silver dollar. Then, in 1968, silver vanished from our currency. And in 1971, the U.S. abandoned the gold standard, pulling Canada with it. Money became paper. Value became abstract. Inflation began its long, steady march, and the dollar began shrinking in ways that Canadians still feel today. 11. When entertainment didn't empty your wallet, movies were an escape, but not a financial decision. In 1965, a kid's movie ticket cost 25 cents. An adult ticket was 50 cents to $1. Popcorn cost 10-15 cents. You didn't browse apps for showtimes. You didn't compare ticket prices. You didn't check your bank balance. You simply walked downtown, stood in line with your friends, and stepped into a theater that smelled of popcorn and velvet seats. The lights dimmed. The projector hummed. You could afford to go again next week, and you usually did. Even comic books were accessible. 12 cents each, same price in Canada and the United States because the currencies were nearly equal in value. 12 cents bought you heroes, villains, adventures, the beginning of a collection kids traded like treasure. Records were cheap too, a 45 RPM single cost 10 cents. If you had $1, you could walk home with music that became the soundtrack of your youth. Entertainment didn't require subscriptions, it didn't require monthly charges, it didn't require debt. It only required coins. 12. Wages that matched the cost of life, not the other way around. We often hear that incomes were low in 1965, and it's true in absolute numbers. But the relationship between wages and prices was the secret. Average salary, $6,500, $7,000 a year. Minimum wage, 95 cents to $1 an hour. A house, $15,000, $20,000. A new car, $3,000. Groceries, $20 a week. Those numbers lined up. No one needed six-figure salaries to live a life of dignity. One income, even a modest income, covered life's essentials. One man remembered earning $8 an hour in 1977, living alone and still having a one-bedroom apartment, a brand-new car, food on the table, extra money in his pocket. Today, many Canadians making $28 an hour struggle to cover rent alone. That change didn't happen overnight, but it happened. The final question. If life felt simpler, more balanced, more livable in 1965, then the question becomes, why can't it be that way again? Not identical, not nostalgic, just fair. A Canada where a house doesn't require two incomes, grocery bills don't feel painful, debt isn't a lifelong companion, families aren't working constantly just to stay afloat. A young person can dream of the same life their parents had. That is not an impossible dream. It already existed. We've lived in that Canada before.